Let me tell you about a decision that happens every single day. Someone gets a little extra money. Maybe it's a bonus at work. Maybe it's a tax refund. Maybe it's just a month where everything lined up and there's $500 left over at the end. $500, not life-changing money, not retire-early money, just $500 sitting in a bank account waiting. And here's where the story splits into two completely different lives. Person A looks at that $500 and thinks, you know what, I've been working hard. I deserve something. Maybe it's a weekend trip. Maybe it's a new phone upgrade. Maybe it's just a really good few weeks of dinners and experiences. The money gets spent. Life continues. Nothing dramatic happens. Person B pauses, does something slightly different with that same $500. Something that takes about 10 minutes to set up. Something that feels almost boring in the moment. 25 years later, Person A and Person B have the same job, the same income, the same city, the same life on the surface. But their financial situations are separated by nearly $50,000. Same $500, completely different outcome. And the reason why has almost nothing to do with math, and almost everything to do with psychology. Here's the belief that most people carry without ever questioning it. Small amounts of money don't matter that much. Think about how often you've heard or thought something like this. It's only $500, it's not going to change my life. I'll start investing when I have real money. What's the point of putting away such a small amount? This thinking feels logical. It feels practical. It feels like you're being realistic about how money works. But it's one of the most financially damaging beliefs a person can hold. And the reason it's so damaging isn't because the math is wrong. It's because the math is invisible. Here's what I mean. When you spend $500, you can see exactly what you got. A trip, a gadget, a few great nights out. The value is immediate. It's real. You can touch it, feel it, remember it. But when you invest $500, the value is delayed. It's hidden. It exists somewhere in the future, in a form you can't see yet, growing quietly in the background while your daily life continues unchanged. And the human brain is genuinely terrible at valuing invisible future rewards over immediate visible ones. This isn't a personal failure. It's how we're all wired. Psychologists call it present bias, the tendency to place far more value on what's available right now than on what could be available later. It's the same reason people choose a smaller reward today over a much larger reward in a year. The future feels abstract. The present feels real. And that gap, between what feels real and what actually is real, is where $500 quietly becomes $50,000. Let's break down exactly how this works. When you invest money, something called compounding starts happening. And compounding is one of those concepts that sounds simple, but genuinely changes how you see every financial decision once you truly understand it. Here's the simplest way to think about it. Imagine you plant a single apple seed. That seed grows into a tree. The tree produces apples. Now, and here's the key part, each of those apples contains more seeds, which grow into more trees, which produce more apples, which contain more seeds. You started with one seed, and over time you end up with an entire orchard. That's compounding. Your money earns returns. Those returns earn their own returns. Those returns earn returns on top of returns. The growth isn't linear, it's exponential. And exponential growth has a way of hiding underground for a long time before it suddenly becomes impossible to ignore. Now let's put real numbers to this. You take that $500 and invest it in a basic index fund, the kind that simply tracks the overall stock market. Historically, the stock market has returned roughly 8 to 10% per year on average. Let's use a conservative 8%. After year one, your $500 has grown to about $540. Not exciting, barely noticeable. After 5 years, it's around $735. Still feels small. After 10 years, it's roughly $1,080. Now it's more than doubled, but it still doesn't feel dramatic. But watch what happens next. After 15 years, it's about $1,587. After 20 years, it's around $2,330. After 25 years, that single $500 investment has grown to approximately $3,424. Now here's where it gets important. Most people look at that number and think, okay, so $500 became $3,400. That's good, but it's not $50,000. Where does the $50,000 come from? The answer is that nobody makes just one $500 decision in their life. Every month, every bonus, every tax refund, every moment of I have a little extra this month. These moments happen over and over again throughout your financial life. And if each one of those moments follows the same pattern, if every $500 surplus gets invested instead of spent, the compounding doesn't just work on one deposit. It works on all of them simultaneously, layering on top of each other, growing in parallel. Run that pattern over 25 years, even just a few of those decisions per year, and the cumulative difference between person A and person B isn't $500. It's not $5,000. It's closer to $50,000 or more, sometimes significantly more. Same income, same opportunities. The only difference is what happened in those small decision moments that felt completely insignificant at the time. Here's the deeper idea that most people never quite reach. The $500 decision isn't really about $500. Every time you're standing at that fork in the road, spend or invest, now or later, visible reward or invisible growth, you're not just making a financial choice. You're casting a vote for the kind of financial life you're building. And here's what's psychologically fascinating about that. The moment itself never feels like a big deal. It never feels like you're choosing between two very different financial futures. It feels like you're choosing between a weekend trip and nothing, between a new phone and doing nothing with your money. That framing, spend versus nothing, is the illusion that makes the wrong choice so easy to make. Because investing $500 isn't doing nothing. It's doing something genuinely powerful in slow motion. It's adding another tree to the orchard. It's letting the seed find the soil. The outcome is real. It's just delayed in a way that makes it invisible to your present self. There's a concept in psychology called temporal discounting. It basically means that the further away a reward is in time, the less value your brain assigns to it. A reward in 25 years feels almost meaningless compared to a reward today, even if the future reward is objectively 100 times larger. This is why financial discipline isn't really about willpower. It's about understanding this bias clearly enough that you can work around it. The people who build wealth consistently aren't necessarily more disciplined than everyone else. They're not wired differently. They haven't unlocked some secret motivation that others lack. What they've done is build systems, automatic investments, standing orders, accounts that move money before they have a chance to spend it, that take the in-the-moment decision out of the equation entirely. They've figured out that if the choice has to be made fresh every single month, present bias will win most of the time. But if the system makes the choice automatically, the future self wins by default. That's the real wealth-building secret hiding behind the $500 decision. It was never about the $500. It was always about the system. So what does this actually mean for where you are right now? First, start taking small amounts seriously. Not because $500 is life-changing on its own, but because the habit of treating every surplus as an investment opportunity is what builds the pattern. And the pattern, compounded over years, is everything. Your brain will consistently tell you that the amount is too small to matter. That's present bias talking. You now know what it's doing. You can acknowledge it and make a different choice anyway. Second, automate the decision. This is probably the single most effective practical move you can make. Set up an automatic transfer on payday, even a small one, that moves money directly into an investment account before you ever see it in your spending balance. When the money never appears available to spend, present bias has nothing to work with. The decision is already made. Third, reframe what doing nothing actually means. When you spend a windfall, you haven't just enjoyed $500. You've opted out of what that $500 could have become. That's a real cost. It's just a cost you'll only fully see much later. Getting comfortable with valuing invisible future gains is a skill. And like every skill, it improves with practice. And finally, understand that you don't need a perfect financial situation to start. You don't need to be debt-free. You don't need a high income. You don't need everything lined up. The compounding clock starts the moment you make the first decision. Every month you delay is a month of growth that can never be recovered, because time is the one ingredient in this equation that can't be bought back. The best time to make this decision was 10 years ago. The second best time is the next time you have $500 left over, and your brain tells you it doesn't really matter. Here's the thing about the $500 decision. It doesn't feel like a turning point. It never does. It feels like a small, forgettable, ordinary moment in an ordinary week. You make it. Life continues. Nothing changes immediately. But 25 years from now, when person A and person B look at where they ended up, when the cumulative effect of all those small moments finally becomes visible, the difference will be enormous. And both of them will be able to trace it back to 100 small decisions that never felt significant at the time. That's how wealth is actually built. Not in dramatic moments of sacrifice or genius, not in perfect strategies or lucky investments, but in the quiet, ordinary, completely unglamorous choice to treat every surplus, no matter how small, as a seed worth planting. Because the orchard you're sitting in 25 years from now was planted one seed at a time. And the next seed is sitting in your account right now, waiting to find out which kind of future you're building. If this changed how you think about small financial decisions, the next video on how compounding works at every income level will take this even further and show you exactly why starting small is almost always better than waiting until the numbers feel worth it.